Corby, and I'm chair of the Professional Standards Authority, and I'm going to talk to you today about non-surgical cosmetic procedures and what should be done to raise standards of consumer safety in this field of practice. As you will probably be aware, non-surgical cosmetic procedures have surged in popularity across the UK in recent years, driven by the increasing use of treatments such as Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and laser therapy. As demand has increased, so have reports of botched procedures and unsafe practices, with treatments sometimes administered not in clinics, but in beauty salons or even in private homes. Although the number of men seeking treatment has risen in recent years, women continue to make up the vast majority of those undergoing non-surgical cosmetic procedures, perhaps driven by intense societal pressure on female appearance, which pretty much every woman in the country is conscious of and has to live with on a daily basis. Although the use of these treatments has shot up, the regulatory response has been slow in terms of protecting consumers, and I do wonder whether this could be partly attributed to a feeling that when things go wrong, women bring this on themselves, perhaps through a perception that undergoing these procedures is driven by vanity. If this has been a factor, I believe that such harmful stereotypes and judgments should have no place when considered against the serious harm caused when these procedures are undertaken by those with limited or no qualifications. It should not matter what the procedure is. If it carries a risk, there should be adequate protections around to keep consumers safe. I also do worry that socio-economic factors may play a part in whether consumers can access safe practitioners or not. Wealthier people can afford treatments performed by fully qualified medical professionals, for example, on Harley Street, where procedures can cost hundreds or sometimes thousands of pounds. People with less money will understandably seek out cheaper options, which are likely to be unregulated, increasing their risk of harm. Until more robust regulation is introduced, practitioners without approved qualifications or sufficient training can legally perform procedures which can put consumers at risk of harm. From allergic reactions and severe infections to permanent scarring and disfigurement, consumers face serious health risks due to unregulated and inadequately trained practitioners. Concerns about the risks of non-surgical cosmetic procedures are long-standing. In the 2013 Keogh review, commissioned following the PIP breast implant scandal, that review found that non-surgical interventions were a crisis waiting to happen due to the lack of regulation, training standards, and patient protection. And yet here we are, 13 years later, in 2026, and many of the recommendations remain only partially implemented. And currently, there are still not mandatory requirements for those carrying out even the highest risk non-surgical cosmetic procedures. There are two organisations accredited by the Professional Standards Authority that work in this field and who hold registers of practitioners providing non-surgical cosmetic procedures, and those are the Joint Council for Cosmetic Practitioners and Save Face. And the fact that these organisations are accredited provides consumers with reassurance that the practitioners on these registers are held to high standards of professional practice and are subject to robust complaint mechanisms. However, although this is helpful, I am concerned that awareness of accreditation remains patchy and, of course, membership of either the Joint Council for Cosmetic Practitioners or Safe Face is voluntary. But there is some good news. Although progress has been painfully slow, it does now feel like things are finally beginning to shift in some parts of the UK. In 2021, cosmetic injectables were banned for under 18s in England, and in Scotland this happened in 2026. However, these services are still available for under 18s in Wales and Northern Ireland, so more does need to be done, in my view, in those two countries. More recently, in February 2026, the Women and Equalities Committee published a report warning that regulation had failed to keep pace with the sector's expansion and that the government is moving too slowly. The committee recommended a licensing system for lower risk procedures and an immediate restriction on high risk procedures, such as liquid breast augmentation, to qualified and regulated medical professionals. The committee also recommended that the government and the devolved administrations should work together to ensure regulatory alignment across all UK nations. We've also been engaging with wider stakeholders on this issue, including at a recent all-party parliamentary health group discussion on women's health, where the regulation of non-surgical cosmetic procedures was highlighted as an important area of action. I am pleased that the UK government has very recently announced its intention to introduce a licensing scheme for practitioners in England and further legal safeguards for cosmetic procedures posing the highest risks, with a consultation on draft regulations to be launched imminently, with a commitment to next steps on licensing being taken forward within the current Parliament. In my view, this cannot happen soon enough. In Scotland, in May 2026, so very recently, the Non-Surgical Procedures and Functions of Medical Reviewers Scotland Act received royal assent. The Act regulates higher risk procedures such as Botox and fillers, requiring that they be carried out in regulated premises, typically under the oversight of an appropriately qualified healthcare professional. A further piece of legislation, the Civic Government Scotland Act 1982, Licensing of Non-Surgical Procedures Order 2026, has also been passed and will introduce a licensing regime for lower risk treatments. Although the legislation is now law in Scotland, the new licensing rules will not be fully enforced until September 2027 at the earliest. In Wales, the new Plaid Cymru government has made no explicit commitments regarding regulation in this area that I'm aware of, and there do not appear to be any active plans in Northern Ireland either. It is good news that progress is being made in both England and Scotland. However, without a similar approach in Wales and Northern Ireland, of course, there remains the very real risk of cross-border cosmetic tourism and consumers remaining at risk in those two countries. So just to wrap things up, the risks arising from non-surgical cosmetic interventions are real and harm is being caused. It is good that progress is being made in some parts of the UK, but alignment across all parts will be so much better so that the risks are minimised. And finally, until regulation and licensing are implemented, I would like to take this opportunity again to remind consumers that they can better protect themselves by using practitioners on a Professional Standards Authority accredited register, the Joint Council for Cosmetic Practice, or Save Face. Many thanks for listening, and I hope that you found this interesting.